Thank you, and welcome everybody. This is pretty exciting, to do these webinars, lunch and learns or whatever you want to call it. So hopefully you've had a lot of coffee and you learn a little bit today. So we'll just kind of dive right in and get started. Not a ton of content for this one. For our group of clients that we have on the call. But we'll dive in here. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to introduce just a couple of people and that are important, and then we're going to dive into the actual 2019 Release 4 notes. We're not going to cover every single topic, like I mentioned. We're just going to kind of hit the ones that most of the clients on the call here today that it will impact. And then we're going to leave a few minutes, probably 15 minutes or so for questions. And then if time available, we're going to maybe show one other surprise item. So we'll dive into that now. So first, just some introductions. You all know David Valade. So I'm doing these webinars. David is previously the one that's done these webinars, and so I've got some pretty big shoes to fill to try to present these things as well as him. So if you have any questions, concerns, or irritations with the webinar, you can address them to myself or to David. I am Steve Walker. I am the practice director and / project manager on most of the Intacct implementations. And then if you see something that you want more information on or some additional training on or whatever, then you can reach out to Brandy Alexander, and that's her contact information there. So with that being said, we'll kind of dive right in here. So first thing, I just wanted to remind everyone that the 1099 season is here to start prepping your 1099s information. If you're new onto Intacct, there's a area that we can take your data, your 1099 data from your old system and populate in. But just wanted to cover a couple of items here. So when you're printing your 1099, the biggest support case that comes in on 1099 printing is that it's not filling the whole document. So one thing to do, because it all prints in PDF, so look for the scale when you start to prep your print, and make sure that instead of having set the fit to page, that it's set to actual size. And that allows the font to increase and fill the 1099 report out properly. This right here, when we get 1099 questions, this right here solves probably 90% of those support cases that are coming in. So be sure to check that first before giving us a call. And then the other one, as soon as I find my mouse again here, my mouse is struggling at the moment, so I'm going to use my other mouse. So the other thing, I'm just going to jump into Intacct here. So the other thing that you should, if it's not lining up right, my mouse, I think my battery went down on my mouse. That's sweet. All right, so we're going to work with this mouse. So we're going to go to 1099. And so if your form is not filling in correctly, when you're getting ready to print the form 1099, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's these printing offsets that you can increase or decrease these offsets to get it lined up correctly. And then that'll help get it aligned on your form properly so that you can, and this will handle another probably 7% of the phone calls that we get on 1099 printing. And then the other ones are just other miscellaneous stuff on 1099. But if you need to adjust the 1099, or you forget to set somebody up on a 1099, you just go to the vendor, and then on the additional information tab, you can set the 1099 information up for the vendor here. And then if you need to make an adjustment, or for those of you who only have a few 1099s vendors from your old system and you just want to manually key them in, this is the area you go, and then you pick the entity that you want to enter in the 1099 information for, and then you just scroll down, you pick the year, and then you pick the box, and then you can just type in that they had $2,000 worth of 1099 income, and then you save that. So that's how you can adjust for a 1099, some 1099 information on a vendor, or if you're running your 1099 reports and you see that there's a transaction that should not have been 1099 or should have been 1099, what you can do is you can go to that bill. So I have them bookmarked here so I don't have to waste time navigating around. So here's a bill. It's already paid. So it's paid in full. So, but it was marked as 1099, and I don't want it to be 1099. So then if you come in here and you look, I can't change this right now because it's set up as or it's already paid. So what you do is you click on reclassify, then it opens it up, and then you can come down, click on the transaction, and then you can uncheck that 1099 and then repost it to get your, oh, I tried this earlier and it worked without error, of course. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Anyway, I tried. That's pretty funny because I tried it like twice earlier and it worked. So anyway, I guess I'll give up on that. But that does work. I know it does because I tried it a couple of times. So anyway, that's always what happens when you're showing stuff. But if you have a problem with reclassing one, let us know and we can help out with that. The other thing you could do on that is you could do an adjustment on that table that I just showed under the vendor information. You could actually do a negative number to remove that amount if you absolutely had to. You could come in and then do a negative $1,000 or change this to 1,000 if you needed to make that change as well, if you can't change the transaction. But I changed that transaction twice before this today, and so I'm not sure why it's not working now. But we'll move on from that. So hopefully that'll help you get through your 1099 season a little better. So now we're going to dive into this release. This is a lot of it right here. So the one thing which all of you probably have noticed, and I know several of you noticed, is that the select bills to pay is gone. And now it's just the pay bills. And so I just want to kind of show a little bit about the pay bills a little bit more, to educate you a little bit more on it, and then we'll talk about Outbox versus Pay Now, and then a little bit about best practice. with auto apply inline credits. So, so when you pay bills, there used to be, you know, a select bills to pay over here. Obviously, that's gone now. So it's all this pay bills screen now. So they've been moving towards that over the last few releases to get it to where they're just going to use this now. So this is all driven by this filter by area. So you can have a lot of filters in here. So if you add a filter, a couple of key notes that you want to watch for is if you don't check this box, this filter is only available to you. So if you want this filter to be available to somebody else, you got to make sure you share the filter. And then it's not real obvious in here. It looks like these are your only options for filtering for this is based on a vendor range. But if you scroll down further, you can actually pick the vendor here, and then you can pick the attribute on that vendor. So I'm assuming a lot of you probably use vendor type as a you know that you would want to filter on to try to pay, or that, or a priority. But I think priority is up here. So but you could select priority down here as well, and then you'd say equals, and then you can pick that you want to pay your legal, and then what that would do then is only show your legal bills in this filter. So then you would obviously probably call this something like legal, and then you'd share it. And then the other thing that you can do is you can sort. So if you want to sort by the vendor name, then you can select whether it's sending or descending, and then you can also pick by due date, sending. So you get pretty granular with these filters, so that you're getting a nice representation of what you're looking to pay. So obviously I don't have any legal bills to pay, so if I just grab my all and apply. So one thing that they do recommend that on these filters, when you create a filter, that it produces only 1,000 records, 1,000 bills to be paid. So that is one of the recommendations. I think you can go over a little bit, but obviously it functions better and faster as if this filter is only pulling up 1,000 records or less. And then obviously you want to try to flow down through here, picking your bank and such. I always forget to do that, and then I select my bills and hit pay now, and then I forgot to select my bank. So just kind of walk through that, and then obviously pick your invoices that you want, and then you have the option of doing add to outbox or pay now. So we get a lot of questions on this as people transition over to that. So adding to the outbox kind of gives you an area where you can drop these off, and you can actually see a subtotal. So if you have $50,000 in your bank account and you only want to cut $40,000 worth of payments, when you're selecting them to pay and you hit pay now, you don't really have that visibility. So you can drop them into this outbox, and then you can go and look at them. It does a couple of things. It also shows what that check amount's going to be going out to those vendors. You can see the amount of the check because it's going to group by vendor. and then you can drill into the details. So let me just grab a couple of these. I think we have time. So, so if I add it to the outbox, and now I go and view the outbox, it only shows me one, but it shows me the total amount. And then it's going to show me a grand total here so that you can really gauge how much you're going to pay. But then you have to then select it all and then say pay. So it does add another step to the process, but it gives you one more step of validation that you know you picked the right amount, especially like if you're validating to you know, an aging report that you've highlighted and it was approved to pay, you know, via a manual means, then you can come in here and double check that you end up with the same number that you 10 keyed or in Excel or whatever that you use to select those. So that gives you one more validation area. And then you would select them and then you'd hit pay. Or you would just go the normal route, which is pay now. You would that's kind of more like your typical select bills to pay functionality, except that you still have to use your filters, and then you would select them, and then you just say pay now. Now I can go out and actually select, you know, print checks, and they're going to be in there. So one less step if you're doing the pay now, but one more additional set of eyes validation when you use the outbox. So hopefully that kind of clears things up for you a little bit on the outbox and pay now functionality here. So the other topic that I kind of want to hit here on accounts payable is the inline credit. So what an inline credit means is if I create a bill and for a vendor and I enter in an account, so I'm using a cost of goods sold and I do $1,200. And then, but I also got a credit on the bill for $120 or $120 or $12, we'll guess, because it doesn't want to do 120. So what this would do is it's actually going to create an adjustment for the 12 and a bill for the 1,200. So this inline credit would automatically apply. So this is kind of new functionality a few releases ago. So you have to kind of double check, or else this won't directly apply to this bill. It'll be out there to be applied to a bill. So but the best practice is to have that auto apply. So to do that, or to validate that you have it set up, you go to accounts payable setup, configuration, and then you scroll. It's way to the bottom because it's a newer functionality. And it's right here where it says credits. Greg, is the latency good, or is it falling behind? Just want to make sure I'm not going too fast on the screen movement.
It seems okay to me. If you think you need to slow down a little bit, just do it yourself, take precaution.
Okay. All right. So here's where you would enable the inline credits to be automatically applied to bills. So you have to check that box, or else you have to manually apply. So if that's functionality that you want, that is Intacct's best practice recommendation is to do that. This is the checkbox you need to make sure that that is checked, and then hit save. and then those credits will auto apply when you go to pay bills. So that's that. Another thing, so that's really it on accounts payable. So the other piece that was changed is, but I don't know of anybody that was using it, which was the quick entry screen. That is no more, but it was very limited anyway, because it only allowed you to use, I think, location and department were the only two dimensions that were available on that screen. So we rarely even taught people how to use that screen because it was really so limited. So that screen is gone now anyway. So so the next thing is administration in companies. So if you have jobs that are running in the background, like scheduled reports or whatever that go off, those jobs were always set to Pacific time and not to your actual local time. So now scheduled jobs are now going to be based off of your time. So what you have to do to make sure that your time is set to your real time is you need to go to company, and then under setup you go company again, and then you scroll down about halfway down here. It's easier to see if I hit edit. So edit that, and we scroll down, and then you get to your global settings here. So you want to make sure that this time zone is set to be your time zone, because I think it defaults to Pacific time, but this will now control your scheduled jobs so that they're going off. So if you want it to go off at 11 o'clock, it's going to go off at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time instead of 11 o'clock Pacific time. So, anyway, so that's I think that's really good. We've had some questions over the years that why a job is going off 3 or 4 hours later than what the client anticipated it going off. Now this will control it. So double check that setting to make sure that it's set to your time zone. So that's really it on administration and company. That would relate to most of you. So general ledger is the next topic. So the account groups, and this actually came from ideas that were voted on by the clients. So if we go to account groups, what they're giving you now is, in an account group, you can have an account purpose. So you can add a purpose to this account group. So you can say, oh, I want to use this in this report. You can create that purpose. They're all user-defined purposes for your company. And then you can also put in an account group manager. So whoever created this account group or is responsible for this account group, you can give that a manager. So if somebody else comes in here and is going to edit that and sees that, that David is the account group manager on this, then I wouldn't want to necessarily change it, because the audit log is going to show that I changed it, and then David's going to be mad and come back and get me. So that gives you the ability to reach out to them and have a conversation saying that you're going to change that, or why it's set up the way it is. So again, this was one of the ideas that were implemented from the ideas group that clients vote on. So I think this is helpful for when you're trying to find because you can put it into your view, these two new fields. You can go in and add them to a view, and then you can filter for it. So if you're looking for a specific, all the account groups that are used in a specific report, you could have that account group purpose as one of those fields, and you could search for it and find all the account groups in that were for that purpose. So I think it's helpful. We used to do something very similar to that, creating a custom field, and then we just started appending our initials at the end to know that we adjusted one. So I think this is a good idea. I think it's good to use it. And the purpose would probably be whether it's a cash flow or a balance sheet or an income statement. So, or, but they're all user defined, so you get to decide. So another enhancement, which I think is more of a fix, is the allocations, the transaction allocations. So it was at one time when you created a transaction allocation, and I know some clients stopped using the transaction allocation because of this. If you set up a transaction allocation and you wanted it to automatically split by location, and you didn't set up any other, you only set up location and you didn't pick out any of these other dimensions, it would only split, and it would only allow you to pick those dimensions. You couldn't say, I want it to go to Texas, but I also want it to go to a specific customer when you're adding that bill. So it used to function like, I'll just kind of show you at a high level what it used to do. Bill. So what it used to do is when you selected, you did your amount, $1,200, and you picked your allocation. I have my allocation on here. I don't. So I picked my allocation here. So by location. So what it used to do is it only did this. It wouldn't let you put any other dimension in, and if you did this, all of the other dimensions would gray out. So now what they're allowing you to do now is now you can say, well, I want that to go to this, all these entities, but I also want it to go to this department. So now it's, to me, it's functioning more logically like you would want it to. So once you save that, it will actually populate that down, that department down to the allocation, which makes more sense to me, because even the vendor wouldn't populate on these, so you couldn't even do really a good detailed vendor spend report, even though it's an AP bill. So I know a lot of people stopped using that. I know several clients that stopped using this. So now I think it's viable again, because it's going to allow you to pick some other dimensions on the fly that are related to that, but still get your allocation to your locations or departments or whatever you're splitting. So good stuff there. But that's not all. So one of the other things that they're allowing you to do is, if I go back here, this new method here, it's allowing you to actually build an allocation where you can say, I want, every time a bill comes in and I use this, I want $100 of that to go to this department at this location. I want $50 to go to finance in Texas. But then I want 50% of the remaining balance to go to human resources and 50% of that remaining balance to go to sales and marketing. So it allows you to get kind of a little bit more creative with your allocations, which I think this is really powerful, really cool. So what that looks like, if I go in and I pick my allocation now, switch my allocation to the new method. Go back in here and look at this. You can see now $100 went to admin, 50 went to finance, and then it broke the rest out between those two departments. So it works. We've tested it. I like it. So it's good stuff. All right. So that's the general ledger. So not a ton. But good news for those who are using projects. If you've subscribed to the project tracking or costing module, then task is now a dimension. So if you're linking task and class together, you really don't necessarily have to do that anymore. You can actually flag things right to the task. And last release, they came out with a catalog of tasks so that you can build a catalog. So if you have the same task over and over and over on projects, you can just pick from that catalog and it'll populate the project with those tasks. So they're really building out the projects module. It's really becoming strong. The only negative, I guess, is this is a move forward thing. So if you have a year or two in your GL history where you've linked task and class together, and you want to do historical reporting on that, you really wouldn't have that if if you start coding things directly to task right now. So, however, what you really could do, or we can help you with, is you could take your general ledger, dump it out, and we could walk you through, help you set up another set of books, and then you could book a big journal entry by day. You'd have to open up your periods, and then zero out the class dimension and rebook it into the task dimension. And then you would be able to start doing historical reporting on task, but you would have to include that other set of books. I'm not a fan of back booking a directly into your current set of books, a change like that, because when the auditors come in, if they're looking at something, they're going to want to see it the way it was. So you can show them the way it was, and then you can include this other set of books with just that journal entry in it, and show them the way it is, and show them that it didn't make any financial impact. It just changed the dimension. So, if you want to do that and you want assistance doing that, reach out to Brandy and we can try to get something scheduled and walk you through a little more detail on that, because there's some gotchas that we would want to go through, but obviously we don't have time on this call to walk through all of that. So, but the good news is if you have that the project module, then you get an additional dimension for tasks. So that's nice. Long time coming, reports and insights. Dashboard now filters on custom reports. So if you have a custom report on your dashboard, and if you've ever noticed that when you do your dashboard filtering, which if you don't know, these are your dashboard filters up here, that if you if you filtered on any of this stuff up here, any custom report that you had on here or management style report, not the financial report, there's not any on this one, but it wouldn't filter. So you would have to have separate dashboards for different departments so that you could see those things, and you'd have memorized reports on there that would be already pre-filtered. Well, now you don't have to do that. Your dashboard will do that now. It'll filter down. So, and it also, your custom reports will now support dimension groups. So if you want to see, three locations grouped together on one custom report, you can do that. So, so that was really all I had. So it looks like that's not too bad. So, any questions that might be out there?
If you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in chat if you haven't already. So far, there is nothing in chat, so we're clear right now. Ready to go, Steve?
So no questions?
Yeah, the chat is still clear, so it doesn't look like we have any questions on this for today.
All right, well, I'll just kind of mention one more thing then. Coming soon to a theater near you. Right now, we're beta testing our own fixed asset software or module. So we're calling it Fixed Asset Essentials. Love to give you a demo of that sometime if anybody's interested. We feel it's way easier to use than other fixed asset modules out there. Again, we're beta testing that now with a client that has 100 entities, so we're putting some stress tests to it to make sure that it'll work for everyone. The caveat is this will only do straight line. We're not trying to do your tax depreciation. This is really just your book depreciation, straight line depreciation. So that's coming soon. I can kind of show you a little bit on that. It's what it looks like. It's in this demo environment. So what it does is it works kind of like the others. You book a bill. The bill will then, if you pick a fixed asset account, it will create a new fixed asset. So, and wait for you to put it into service. So let's see if this will work for me. Again, this is a demo environment, so anything can happen in here.
Hey, Stephen, when you're done, we did have one come through. It's rather...
It's too late.
It's rather lengthy, so I will send it to you in chat.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to just pick that. All right, so I hit one of the fixed assets accounts, and then if I hit post, a bill number is required, I guess. I got ahead of myself. Where is it? So it gives you a, I got to backdate it because it's expired in here. So it's gonna, it gives you a warning that this is gonna be the asset name. And then if we go to our fixed asset module now, we should have an asset in here. Fixed asset test that just created. It auto assigns the number, which is actually the record number of the bill that created it. If we come in here, we can put it into service, give it the asset life, and then it'll actually build that depreciation schedule out for you. And then it will actually book that depreciation for you at the end of every month. Well, or it'll book it on the day you put it into service on that day every month, or if you click this box for the end of the month, it will post it at the end of the month, and it will auto post. So, and then it has links back to the original documents that created it. So 3 years from now, if you wanted to look at the actual AP bill, you can drill right back to it, and if there was an attachment, you could look at the bill. So that's coming. So let me see what this
Steve,
question was.
I sent it to you. It's actually in there twice. So once you get to the, you can go back. It's just
a little too in depth.
And if it's too in depth to get into on the presentation, Steve, we can take it offline and respond directly.
So how to run a bill registered received. Yeah, I guess I don't know what to take that offline. It might be a custom report. I'm not sure. I might need more information.
All right, so we can take that one offline. We get it answered directly on that one. Any other questions out there? Awesome. If you guys have anything else in the meantime, or you come up with a question or want more information on what was shown, you can go ahead and email Brandy. She will be able to direct you to an answer. If not, thank you, Steve, for doing this presentation for us, and we hope to see everyone before the next update.
Thank you very much.